RTS is one kind of strategy. 4X grand strategies are another. Right now, it's tactics time. I bet these tactical strategy games will push your brain to its limits, but maybe you're actually a genius commander. Let's find out, and welcome to what 2024 has in store for us. The first game on our list is Classified France 44. Command an elite team of allied special operators in Nazi-occupied France, wreaking havoc in the run-up to D-Day in this ambitious turn-based tactics game. Take on the might of Germany's war machine and launch daring raids in occupied territory. Here's a game where every shot is meant to count, the game having a unique morale system, and shots and receiving shots affects morale of your units and the enemies, which can give opportunities to finish the job. You'll be able to shape the battle using stealth tactics or going in guns blazing, it's really up to you, as you build your team and go on missions, your team having an arsenal of skills and weapons, which you should tailor to what's required. Of course, the game is set in history, promising over 45 missions. So there should be a lot to experience and learn about history as well through all of this. And the challenge is part of the design. I mean, tactical games in general are supposed to accommodate those challenge enthusiasts, but this one, it is a specific selling point where this game can be particularly challenging. I mean, it looks pretty good. I mean, it's got that sort of XCOM vibe to it. And but it's set in World War II and in France, so that could be a nice twist. So you can go ahead and check out Classified France 44 and see if this is one that you're wanting to be jumping into. Flying into space and the future, Nebulous Fleet Command. Take command of your hand-tailored fleet of space warships and use realistic radar, electronic warfare, advanced movement controls in 3D space, and precision targeting to outmaneuver and outwit your opponents in a simulation-heavy tactical space game. Now, what this game is promising is in-depth control of your space fleet, radar, e-war, and deception, being able to design and adapt to the situations you face across space, a set of detailed subsystems, so things aren't just fly a ship around and shoot things, you actually have to design and manage all sorts of things, and mod support is going to be a thing. Overall, the look of the game is pretty good. It's visually decent, I suppose. Pretty good for a game like this. And there seems to be quite a lot of things you can encounter as you go through space. Basically, the vibe I'm getting is that if you like Homeworld, but just the combat tactical part of it, then Nebulous Fleet Command might be for you. But let me know what you think. Alright, next game. Going a bit more vehicular, we've got TANKOCRACY. It's a bit hard to say that title, but TANKOCRACY. This is a tank tactical top-down shooter inspired by games like Desert Strike and Battletech on the Mega Drive. You'll lead your mercenary company to success by completing hardcore contracts and, well, basically destroying your enemies. I mean, this is a tank tactical game. I mean, you kind of get what it's promising. You have a squad of tanks or a tank and you go around destroying things. However, this isn't quite set in modern day. There are mechs and or gears which are walking around. So you are going to be facing some difficult things, but generally if you like tanks and just commanding tanks from the top-down view perspective, TANKOCRACY looks like it could be a thing, but maybe based on the description, it might be a little bare bones. They're not really promising all that much. However, there is a free demo on Steam that you can try right now, so why not just try it? It is said that it's supposed to be releasing by the end of 2023, but it'll be in early access, so it's going to be in development through 2024 as well. For one that a lot of people have been asking me about, Broken Arrow. Here we have a large-scale, real-time modern warfare tactics game. A unique army building system and deep unit customization tools allow for endless replayability, and there's supposed to be over 200 realistic military units and technologies, each battle being more immersive than the next. That is the promise. We'll have to wait and see if they can actually pull it off. The unique selling point is supposed to be action-packed combat, deploying units to the battlefield via land, sea, and air, using paratroopers and helicopters to rapidly seize key locations, large urban battlefields, custom units that you can design how you want, including the ammunition type, building up your army with recon units, infantry, fighting vehicles, support, helicopters, and airplanes, so there's a lot of variety to what you can compose your army with, and a powerful scenario editor with Steam Workshop support, so community content should be a pretty big thing with Broken Arrow. Like, visually, this game looks pretty good, and it sounds like there's a lot of stuff for you to do in it. There's a lot of games in this sort of modern or slash near future tank, military, tactics, kind of combat battlefield thing going on. There's a lot of games in this sector already, and a lot more on the way, as you'll see in this list. We'll see if Broken Arrow can actually break through all the competition. Speaking of tanks on a battlefield with military stuff, an already good success, WARNO. This is a realistic, immersive, and supposedly breathtaking game, promising to be the ultimate World War III battle simulator. And it's from the strategy developers Eugen Systems, which they tend to go between RTS and tactics games. In WARNO, a Cold War turns decisively hot as you command hundreds of units on a battlefield where you have to outsmart, outfight, and lead your forces to total victory. This game has been in early access since the beginning of 2022, so it's coming up on 2 years now. But it's got thousands of reviews with a very positive rating on Steam, so it's going well. People like it. I mean, it says there's more than 600 different military units featured in the game. There's an army general campaign, scripted operations, and ever-evolving battlefields and maps rich with tactical options and objectives and terrain and all of that. This one's already a success if you are looking for a game like this. WARNO is one that seems like a safe bet to jump into. However, they did say that they were planning to be in early access for about 6 to 8 months, but it's been almost 2 years, so basically it might be one of those forever early access games, unless they decide to release over the next year or so. But generally, it seems like it's already good, so what does early access mean anyway? Hey, now that you're a bit into this list, I'm sure you're enjoying it, so it'd be greatly appreciated if you could like the video. Alright, next game. Headquarters World War II. This, contradictorily, is saying it's a fast-paced, turn-based strategy game where your battlefield tactics are as important as your army management skills. You get to experience both sides of the war, battling in Europe as the USA and the UK, or as Germany. Storm bunkers, occupy houses, and win tank duels. So this game is a turn-based game. So it's the sort of classic tactics game where you have tanks and they do have sides, so shooting from the front or the back or the side does matter. Some tanks have more side armor than back armor, so shooting them in the back does count for extra points. But it is saying that it's fast-paced as well. And in a turn-based game, what that means is that generally you're not going to be slowly moving your units across the battlefield, getting into perfect position and then taking the perfect shots. It means you are going to be a bit more brawly with your tactics, but that doesn't mean you just throw strategy out the window. You do have to prove yourself as a masterful tactician. This game is coming with an editor tool to create skirmish and multiplayer maps, so the community-made content should keep this game going. And just visually, this one is one of the better looking ones. I had a closer look at this one over at Gamescom, and I zoomed right in to the game, like real up close to the visuals, and it's textured. It looks great. The art team did a phenomenal job on this game. Gameplay, I only touched it, and it seems pretty good, but we'll see how it pans out over the next year. Going to the seas, Corsairs Battle of the Caribbean. An immersive adventure and strategy game set amidst the thrilling world of buccaneering. As a shrewd captain, you navigate tumultuous seas, engage in complex politics, and manage a diverse crew to establish maritime dominance and ensure your fleet's future. So obviously this is a bit more than just a tactics game, but I mean the naval battles are kind of the point here. So when I make these lists and label them as genres, there's a lot of mixed genres games out there. Obviously we could even call this one an RPG if you like, but what's the main point is the naval battles, which is more of a tactical experience. You'll be upgrading your ships and strengthening your crew, and you have 3 types of soldiers. Tank, gunner, and agile are the mainstay of your crew's fighting force. There is an expanded campaign mode with 4 engaging storylines, and there is a boarding mode, so it's not just ship-to-ship combat, it's crew-to-crew combat. On a side note, besides all of that, there are trading mechanics, managing your fleet and cities even, to defend and establish your dominance in the Caribbean region. This generally looks like something different, especially for this list, and it sounds kind of interesting, not just having the tactical naval battles, but also all of this management aspect to it, the trading and the cities. So this seems like a really cool take on the genre, so have a look and see if you want to get into Corsairs Battle of the Caribbean. Staying on the seas, Task Force Admiral. Currently Volume 1, American Carrier Battles. This seems like one of those tactical battle simulator kind of games, and it does seem like it's going to be releasing in various volumes based on the title of the game. This one's promising a game where you can experience the thrill of leading American aircraft carriers to victory in full 3D, set in the Pacific in 1942. Play the game in first person or from above while you lead your fleet and planes right from the center of the battle. So this is more of a wargaming kind of game, which I do count as a tactics game. But here, realism is key. Accurate real-life ship, aircraft camouflage and markings, advanced realistic ballistics and damage modeling, high level of sound immersion, dynamic original soundtrack. These are all things that are being promised by this game, and so it does seem like immersion and realism is sort of at the forefront of all of this, and it does look realistic and have a lot of features that are in line with keeping you in the game. If you like the realistic naval warfare with planes anyway. So obviously if you like aircraft carriers and aircrafts fighting over water, then this is going to be a game for you, but if you're looking for something a bit more fantastical or just prefer tanks, then maybe not this one. But generally this is looking kind of interesting, and just the publisher is a bit of a throwback for me. It's published by Microprose Software. Obviously not the same people, but wow, Microprose takes me back. Alright, let's move on from this one. Now I said we're moving on, but actually kinda similar, Trident Naval Doctrine. Take command of a carrier strike group, a destroyer squadron, or a lone submarine in a real-time naval tactics game. Outsmart, outmaneuver, or outgun enemy fleets on, under, and over the seas. So what's this one about? Well, it's real-time tactics in a modern naval battle space. There's a wide range of kinetic and non-kinetic weapons and sensors, a procedural campaign with historical footing as well as fictional, game maps from all over the world, and this game will be releasing into early access. So although this should be playable sometime in 2024, it doesn't mean the game will be complete over the year. But, you know, as I mentioned earlier, you never know how long these games will be in early access. Could be 6 months, could be 10 years, who knows. But generally, Trident Naval Doctrine, in comparison to the last game, this one is not set during World War II. It seems more set during the modern age, and that's kind of where the games will differ. But for those of you who are more aficionados in this kind of naval war game kind of style, what is your take on the difference between the previous game and this one? Like, which one are you leaning towards? I'd love to hear your opinions on them. But yeah, that's a look at Trident Naval Doctrine. You let me know what you think. But moving on, a game that's bringing back an old IP, Stargate Timekeepers. This one is a real-time tactics game where you lead a team of specialists through a story-driven campaign set in the SG-1 universe, but importantly, this is not SG-1. This is all different characters, you know, a new story, a new kind of settings, but it's still Stargate. Sneak your characters behind enemy lines using their unique skills, craft the perfect plan to unravel a time loop mystery, and defeat the Goa'uld threat. So it is set in that earlier Stargate kind of setting. But it's a tactics game, real-time tactics, leading a unit or multiple units through various maps, interacting with the environment, assassinating enemies, and achieving your objectives. Now, overall gameplay for Stargate Timekeepers does seem pretty solid, though at the time of me looking at this, it does seem a little lackluster here and there, particularly in the visuals and the animations. There doesn't seem to be that much impact to it. However, the gameplay for a real-time tactics squad-based kind of stealth game, it does seem like a pretty solid game. It's just the initial reveal seemed to lack a little bit of punch, you could say. But the environments look amazing, the gameplay seems solid, it's not finished yet, the game should be coming out sometime in 2024, so there is time for this to get better. So if you're interested in Stargate, and you like tactics games, then I'd keep an eye on Stargate Timekeepers and see how it develops over the next 6 to 8 months, and see where it is then and assess it then. I don't want to judge it too early, but I'd keep this as a to-watch game moving forward. Speaking of visuals, White Sands is an upcoming tactics game that should be going into early access sometime towards the end of 2023. Here you're a commander of the Union, a semi-state organization with military and research potential. Your goal is to help humanity rebuild. Modern military technology will give you an edge over the bandits, but it will be a difficult task. Now, the reason why I mentioned the visuals on this one is I know the game is called White Sands, but from the screenshots we've seen, it is white sands, like it's blindingly white. So I know it's got a point and a style that it's going for, but it's sometimes hard to look at this game. It's so blindingly white. Now that's an easy fix moving forward, and I'm sure as the game gets feedback based on what people want to look at, it will adjust over time. It's going into early access after all. Hopefully the gameplay is solid behind the white bloom. We'll find out what they're doing soon as it develops over the next year, and it is supposed to fully release within 6 to 12 months. However, I do expect games to always take longer than stated, so we'll see how it goes. Next up, Mars Tactics. Lead either capital or labor in an all-out war to control Mars. Command troops across both a detailed strategic map and procedurally generated tactical battlefields, outmaneuvering the enemy using suppression and flanks, or you can call in airstrikes to remake the battlefield in a fiery blast. War on Mars, with some nice little isometric graphics, which I'm not against. This game is meant to have total tactical freedom with classic turn-based tactical combat, and it has that sort of XCOM kind of stuff with suppression, flanking, cover, line of sight, fog of war, friendly fire, and all of that. So this is a more classical tactical experience, which I know a lot of people are still very much into. I mean, this definitely have a Xenonauts vibe to it as well, being that classic. I mean, it is still a 3D game, but it has that isometric style, which does bring it back. And notably, they're sort of selling this goal-oriented action planning for the AI. Enemy soldiers and commanders think ahead and look for creative ways to accomplish their goals. So it's saying that the AI is actually going to be kind of clever in this one, and that's always a difficult task to achieve, but we'll see how they manage it. I mean, overall, I personally love the look of this because it is more classic, and I do like the classical style of games, tactics or otherwise, so I'm into this so far. And if you're into the classic games as well, then this might be another take on the Xenonauts XCOM kind of style. So yeah, I think this one's one that we can keep an eye on. It does say the release date is supposed to be 2023. However, we're approaching the end of 2023 now, so it might be a late 2023 release, otherwise it might be delayed into 2024. Either way, I'm gonna put it here because it's a game that we can play through 2024, and I don't want to miss it in case it is delayed. For a game that's been in early access for a while now, XO. This one entered early access at the end of 2019. 2013, and it's kind of a more indie development that's been chugging along in terms of development. There is no particular release window for when this is supposed to be ready, but this is a game where you build a fleet and lead humanity to safety, where you grow your fleet using force, diplomacy, or guile, and try to stay ahead of the relentless harvesters. Each ship you add to your fleet gives you power, but also reduces your limited resources in this challenging RTS with pause kind of tactics game. Now, this has been in early access for a long time, and you can see from the visuals what you're getting into. It is basically a space tactics game with a unique kind of, wireframe Tron kind of look to it. Now, if you're unsure, the good news about this game is that there is a demo. So you can go check out the XO demo and see if you like it and see if you feel like you want to jump into it. The few reviews it's gotten so far are very positive. So the people who've played it seem to like it. If you like the look of it or just are kind of intrigued, you can try the free demo and then you let me know what you think of it. Anyway, that's XO. For one more take on the squad tactics game, Project Haven. Here we have a game set on the mean streets of Earth's last city. Lead the Steel Dragons, a mismatched mercenary crew on high-risk missions. Invest in equipment and stay ahead of the game one bullet at a time. You can play the story solo or in co-op, plus there's procedural skirmishes for 1 to 4 players. Now, this is a squad-based tactical game, as we are familiar by this point, listing out immersive action, a flexible combat system, a story-driven campaign, RPG character progression, advanced weapon mechanics, particularly for ammo types, and weapon customizations and modifications. And there should be a lot of content with the solo campaign and the co-op modes. Now, this is another one that's supposed to be releasing in 2023, but there's no fixed release date as of recording this video. But there is a free demo, so you can go check that out. I mean, the game looks great. The gameplay seems as solid as a squad-based tactical game can be. Like, visually it looks great. I like the style. And if you're intrigued, free demo, always a good thing to have, so go check it out. Now, for one that visually seems a bit confusing, I mean, this is really not quite revealed quite yet. It's called Neverdark, saying it's a pausable RTS game which throws you into a post-apocalyptic world. You're in a city following a global blackout. Society has collapsed, and it will be your goal to rebuild it. Now, we haven't seen too much of this. I mean, there's a cinematic trailer and some screenshots, and the feature list is that there's real-time simulation strategy gameplay set in real cities and real maps. You get to make political decisions and figure your way out through events, and tactical combat, because you need to deal with the other groups competing for control of the city. Overall, it does sound like an interesting idea, but I mean, we haven't seen too much, and might be interesting, might be cool. We don't really know yet, but I'll keep an eye on Neverdark and see if it turns out to be anything. It is supposed to be releasing in June 2024, so we should see more of it after we go into the year a little bit. Sticking with the post-apocalyptic setting, Survive the Fall. Scavenge, craft, build, and fight. This is a game set in an open world with a lot of action and rich story. Collect loot, fight to rebuild your community, and do some base building as you uncover secrets of the fallen world after a meteorite strike. So this is a tactics game with survival and exploration and base building, so that's always kind of cool. And you get to assemble a team that will help you survive and support you in battle. Or you could leave them at home to defend the base. The main features are a world full of secrets, a survivalist approach to gameplay, team and resource management, and construction and development of the settlement. Visually, it's not bad to look at either. It does have this sort of autumn aesthetic, sort of fitting the downfall of civilization. I mean, this one does look cool, and I've been watching it for a while, but we haven't gotten many solid updates. I mean, some developer updates and gameplay features here and there, and there's no particular release window for it right now, but I think if you like tactics games and you like survival games with some base building, then Survive the Fall could be a good one on the horizon. Okay, now for something that's completely different from everything else on this list. The Stone of Madness. This is saying that it's a hardcore real-time tactics and stealth game set in an ever-changing Spanish monastery. 5 inmates are imprisoned under different pretenses, and in order to escape, they must face their phobias and risk worsening their conditions before madness completely takes them. Okay, so for a tactics game, this one is different. At the very least, nothing else is sounding like this one. You have to escape a monastery because you have a mental affliction and you need to face your madness. So there's character progression and regression. You don't just progress, you go backwards in this game. You have to discover the secrets of the monastery, and because your memory is going, there's a semi-procedural system, so the layout of the monastery keeps changing. It doesn't keep changing, you keep forgetting where things are. And there is a day-night cycle, which does affect your stability, I suppose. The artwork is very unique, and just the overall premise does set this apart. But it's still a tactics game. I mean, it's saying it's taken inspiration from games like Shadow Tactics and Desperados and Commandos. So it's definitely a tactics game, it's just the setting is rather crazy. So I love the look of it, I like the idea. There's no particular release window as of recording, but the Stone of Madness, this is something that I want to keep an eye on. Sticking to the monastery, but more on the illustration side, we've got Inkulinati. This is a game that's set on the pages of a medieval manuscript, where you have to it's a turn-based strategy game where a rabbit's bum can be deadlier than a dog's sword, is the line they're going for. Become a master of living ink. Build your own bestiary, defeat medieval superstars, and collect perks to unleash hidden powers. So this one is already in early access since the start of 2023, and it's going well. There's only a handful of reviews, but they are very positive, and like the last game, there really isn't anything else quite like this in the genre or anywhere, really. I mean, it's got a Monty Python-esque sort of vibe to it, of course. It's hard to ignore that comparison. But it does have its own unique style, and there's local PvP mode to duel your friends or foes, and it is pretty much a tactical combat strategy game. It's just the abilities and the units are, well, those weird drawings of snails and dogs and lions from medieval manuscripts, and it looks really cool. Now, going through early access, it is working towards a 2024 release, and most of the new features on the roadmap have been implemented so far, so it's going along quite well. If you're interested but waiting for it, then it should release soon-ish, but otherwise you can jump in right now, and I think it looks like a lot of fun. And then we've got Hexxen Hunters. Lead a party of 18th century hunters against the forces of hell in this turn-based tactical RPG that sort of feels like it's real time, but it's not, it is still turn-based. Manage your base of operations, train your team of witch hunters, and fight to save the world from certain doom. Aesthetically and gameplay-wise and setting-wise, it does have a sort of Darkest Dungeon vibe to it, but the main selling point of Hexxen Hunters is that even though it's turn-based, it's sort of designed to try and be real-time, or feel real-time. So when it's turned for a unit to move, there's a circle, like a radius, which they can run around in, and they can freely run around in there. And then you trigger your ability to attack a specific enemy, or heal an ally, or whatever. So even though it is turn-based and tactical, it doesn't feel as rigid. And that is an interesting approach to the combat, but we'll see how it actually works out. It's trying to be between turn-based and real-time, basically, and that could be really cool, or it could just not be as good as either one. But there is that base of operations and stuff, and interestingly, there is basically a countdown to the doomsday clock. So you need to either turn back time to stop the end of the world from happening, or achieve your objective in time. So there's a lot to see and do here, but it's still early days. It's planning to release sometime in 2024, and we'll be able to keep an eye on its development moving forward. But yeah, this combat system really is the thing to analyze here, and to see if it actually does work. Being a bit more multiplayer, massively so, it's Anvil Empires. This is a massively multiplayer game where thousands of players work together to build empires, wage war, and conquer in a persistent online world. You get to march alongside armies of players in massive melee battles and large-scale sieges. So, okay, this one, I don't even know what genre to put this in. It's kind of a tactical strategy, MMO, base building thing, and I just kind of feel like the battles, the real-time battles are kind of the focus here, so I'm putting it as a tactics game, but I really want to know what you think of this one, because nothing really is like this. Which does also mean that this could be a huge success because there's no competition, or it just falls flat because, well, it's the first one of its kind and it doesn't quite really work out so well. But we'll see how it goes. You are supposed to go on these massively multiplayer conquests with all these other people, which also, by the way, does rely on there being a large player base for it to be real people. You do get to build a base and build an empire and manage all your medieval logistics to keep things running. So this looks great, this sounds great, but again, when it comes to these sorts of MMO kind of strategy games, it does really rely on people wanting to play the game and wanting to continue to play the game. If the player base dies out, then the whole point of it kind of feels meaningless. So Anvil Empires could be really, really cool, could be not. Now, going back out into space and sci-fi, Moonbreaker. This is a turn-based strategy tactical skirmish game designed to be a true digital miniature experience. This game's set in an expansive sci-fi universe crafted by Brandon Sanderson, and you get to direct captain and crew in a gripping, ever-changing competition and adventure. Now, this really is supposed to be like tabletop miniature kind of experience, to the point where you get to paint your units. You get to paint your figures how you want. So basically, if you're into D&D, if you're into Warhammer, if you're into the tabletop miniature experience, then this is a tactics game for you. Like, half the selling point is that it is these miniatures. Like, they're animated like miniatures on a table and everything. So Moonbreaker seems very, very cool. It is actually in early access, so just crossing over 1,000 user reviews so far, and it's very positive, almost 90% positive. So people are liking it, but I do think it is for a specific audience. Like, if you're into this stuff, you should love this, right? If you're not into this stuff, then obviously, well, you're not going to be into this stuff. But yeah, Moonbreaker, very interesting. It's in early access. It's supposed to be releasing sometime by 2024, but of course it could take longer in early access. But that's when it's initially aiming for. And yeah, that's Moonbreaker. Staying in space, and specifically Mars, it's Space Gears. This is supposed to be a next-generation strategy game set on Mars, and you're not supposed to worry about micromanaging build orders or your resources. You just set your sights on victory by raising an army of mechs and building up your base in this fast-paced PvE and PvP strategy game. So this is sort of what I kind of define the difference between an RTS and a real-time tactics game. It's really whether the focus is on just the battles, or if the base building and the resource collection and the unit micro kind of matter as well. So Space Gears, it's not really focused on the base building or resource collection, it is about the battles, about the combat, and that seems to be what it's delivering. It is set in the Space Gears universe, which is the latter half of the 21st century, where, you know, everything's all about Mars, basically. But there is an unknown threat that's coming to, well, kill everything. Unless you stop it, of course. Now, this game is planning to, well, it says it's planning to release by the end of 2023, so basically I'm gonna count it as a 2024 game. And it does look interesting, though, you know, there's more games like this on the market already, so it's gonna have a fight ahead of it, not just against the unknown alien enemies, but also against other competing games. Speaking of competing games, we've got MENACE, from the developers of Battle Brothers, most notably. But this time it's sci-fi and 3D. Lead a strike force against an alien threat in this turn-based tactical RPG as you're answering distress calls from across different worlds. train and equip infantry, deploy tanks and mechs, and plan and execute missions in detailed turn-based battles. Now, Battle Brothers was sort of an unexpected success. When it was first revealed, everyone sort of complained about the art style and that it just looks like some small indie game, but Battle Brothers blew up. It became massively successful, and MENACE, I don't know whether it's gonna be for the same audience, like gameplay-wise and mechanics-wise, yes, it's gonna be that kind of stuff that people love. But it is sci-fi, and it is 3D, and I wonder if people are gonna be like, no, I want the 2D art style that looks like Prison Architect and RimWorld, please bring that back. That's always gonna be how it is, right? You do one art style, people complain. You do the other art style, people still complain. But overall, MENACE is looking like a really good game. It is planning to release in 2024. There's a lot to deal with on these tactical battles, including destructible environments and just changing of the landscape of things. And you do have to manage your resources and manage your soldiers as you try and survive through all of these various missions to not get whittled down by the other human and non-human threats. So yeah, I think MENACE is one to watch, and it could be a huge success. There's a lot of lessons they could have learned from Battle Brothers to implement in this game, and it is very much a different thing, so they have the freedom to implement changes without being too tied to Battle Brothers. But we'll see how it goes. Okay, then for one that's kind of, I know I've called this an RTS in the past, but I really do think it's a real-time tactics game. It's Mechabellum, right? Which is kind of an auto-battler, so I don't know how to list these games so much anymore. But this one, it is popular with RTS players. It is popular with auto-battler players, and I do kind of feel that it is a tactics game in terms of how you're choosing your units and positioning them on the battlefield. Even if you don't have direct control once the battle begins, it does still have a lot of tactics and strategy, otherwise how could you be better or worse at the game? But Mechabellum has been very successful so far. It's been in early access since about mid-2023 with thousands of reviews and leaning towards over 80%, close to 90% positive rating. So people are loving Mechabellum. It looks great. It plays, I think it delivers what it's trying to deliver is why it's successful. And it's got this cool sci-fi explosive battlefield kind of management tactics thing going on. So yeah, Mechabellum, it's already kind of a success. If you haven't tried it, you can check it out. People are liking it, and it is supposed to release in 2024 fully, so if you're waiting for full release, it shouldn't be too much longer for that if they're sticking to their original timeline. And of course, how could I have a tactics list without mentioning Xenonauts 2? A game that I personally have been watching for a long time, and it finally released into early access middle of 2023, and it is aiming for a 2024 release window, but of course, as they always say, it depends on player feedback, and we might stay in development longer. But it's Xenonauts 2, right? The sequel to a classic tactical game that's about a global war of resistance against an alien invasion. You command turn-based tactical battles, building a network of covert bases across the world, and directly control your fighter wings and achieve strategic victory in a simulation of asymmetric warfare against a technologically superior foe. Xenonauts is sort of the classic tactical game, sci-fi tactical game. And it's great to see that it's back. It's in isometric. It has that classic style. You can't get much more classic with a new tactics game than Xenonauts 2. And people are liking it through early access so far. It's just about crossed 1,000 user reviews at about 75% positive. So it's not the most liked, but it is still quite positive reviews, and it is still going through early access, so it should only get better from here. So yeah, Xenonauts 2. I think if you're a tactics fan, you probably already know about it, but I'm gonna mention it anyway, because of course I am. And then for a last-minute entry for Men of War 2. That's right, this highly anticipated sequel to to a real-time tactics franchise, was supposed to release in 2023, September that is, but it was delayed almost last minute into 2024. Now this could be a very good thing because they say the feedback for the game in testing so far has been very good, but they need more time to squash bugs and just refine up the experience. So this could be a good thing for the game. Hopefully it is actually as refined as it needs to be by the time it does actually release. Anyway, this game is supposed to be bringing us all new units, locations, campaigns, and game modes in a World War II tactical RTS-ish war game, taking place on the Eastern and Western fronts. Now, on the Steam page, it does say that it's classic real-time strategy gameplay, but keep in mind this is just the combat aspect. There's no real base building or resource collection kind of thing, so I consider this more of a tactics game. But with a new advanced AI, a cinematic single-player experience, multiplayer combat in PvP and co-op modes, with varied and historical units, and just generally really good graphics, along with full mod support, Men of War 2 does promise a lot, and everyone seems to be into what it is. Even if you don't consider it a proper RTS fans are looking forward to this one. So hopefully the game does end up as refined as it needs to be and delivers on all of these promises. But it's gonna be in 2024 either way. There you have it! Press the like button and use the GOG referral link below to support videos like this one. If you want to stay in the know for another genre, go to the next list video linked on the screen, as I'm sure tactical fans like yourself would not want to miss all the RTS and 4X games on the other list. Thank you so much to all the patrons and YouTube members for keeping this channel running and supporting the content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in that next video.